So he's no longer getting a patch then, right?
I'm totally done now. That's it.
On my breath now anyway.
So he's no longer getting. Hey, I hope you get one by the end of the season, buddy. You've been playing with us for years now.
It says we're live.
Hooray!
Rectified the technical difficulties.
Again.
Again.
So to restart the question, what got you guys involved with paintball?
As I was saying, Grant and I have been involved in extreme sports for numerous years, and in order to spend time with my husband, I would have to go to him. Instead of sitting inside and wondering what he was doing, I would start it off basically by going to the garage, and first extreme sport was ducking screwdrivers flying through the open door. That one was fun. And then we were involved. Oh, I know, right? It was also extreme with the yelling that followed after when I walked away. Then I went to motocross, and that ended after we moved to Grand Prairie from our previous town, and a friend of ours was involved in a very serious accident on the track during a race, and Grant was there and witnessed that, and he realized he wasn't getting younger. We were in fact getting older, and bones don't mend the way they used to. So he came home, and a couple days later sold his bike and promptly went to the paintball store and bought the first gun. And came home, and he's sitting there brooding, wondering who he's going to play with, because he's got this awesome new gun. So he drags me down to the store, and it just drove him crazy that it took me almost a month of going to the store every single day, trying on every single mask and trying out every single gun until I found something that I liked.
It took you forever.
Typical shopping with the wife.
Yes.
I wanted it just right.
Understandable.
Yeah, I'm very, very picky. So finally we got that all dealt with, and we went out to the fields, and that was that. We've pretty much been doing it since that very first time.
And that was how long ago? 7 or 8 years ago now?
At least 7 or 8 years now.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that kind of translate or transfer into getting on with SAS?
That we got involved with SAS about 5 years ago now, because the first 2 or 3 years we just went out to our local field and played with Heather and myself and a couple of my brothers and her brothers or whatever, and met some people out there. And then
got in with the field owner.
Was it you or me that came up with the idea maybe we should start a team?
That was you.
Was it my idea? Okay. Well, we thought about starting a team and kind of trying to be a little bit more organized when we did our paintball outings and stuff. And how did we find out about SAS first of all?
You were on a couple of the forums and were watching a couple of their paintball videos from the States.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then you went and started looking for chapters in Canada.
Right.
And next thing I know, I didn't know he was doing this. I didn't know that he had kind of been meeting a couple people on the team in the States or out in Eastern Canada. Until I get a phone call from a random number in Saskatchewan, or Lloydminster, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a gentleman there that was section commander for Western Canada, the one section commander. And
Sounds like
he says, yeah, right? So he says, so you guys want to get involved with the team? And first of all, I was shocked. I was like, well, we were thinking of starting a team, but how did you know and who are you? Kind of thing. Well, I've been talking to your husband. Well, I haven't, obviously. So 1 hour later, the guy says, "I'm gonna call the team president and get back to you guys." And I thought, okay, we've just been talking about paintball and what we've been doing and everything. And later on that night, after I confronted him when he got home, we get a call from the president at the time for SAS Canada, and he says, "So you guys feel like becoming Northern Alberta's section commanders?" Grant's like, "All right." And that was that.
Just in from the get-go.
Pretty much.
It's pretty easy, actually.
Easy for you.
It's definitely easy for me.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, come on, it's kind of hard for us not to enjoy having you guys as Northern Alberta section commanders. I mean, whenever you guys come down, it's always a hoot. It's always a family reunion, and you guys definitely not always. Not always.
It snows too. That's
yes,
right.
very true. True, it does snow. I mean, Dave, didn't we give Rick the call sign Weatherman?
Yeah. We were threatening. Sadly, it hasn't stuck yet.
I called him Weatherman yesterday. How's that count? Yeah.
That works.
We're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So you guys answered question number 2 already. So as a married couple involved in paintball and being in charge of Northern Alberta SAS, how has it affected you guys' relationship? And how has your relationship affected your view of paintball?
One way that our relationship has affected how we experience paintball is that we try to get couples out, not just like one of her friends, one of my friends, sort of thing, because it's a totally different dynamic when you're playing with a couple, or like when I go out with just my guy friends. It's totally different than when we go out with families. I find that when you go out with just the guys, it tends to be a little bit more aggressive and more, I don't know, more in your face a little bit, and it tends to be a little bit more laid back and kind of more of a family atmosphere when you go out as couples.
Yeah. It's a great way of, I guess, showing other couples that being involved with each other doesn't just have to be going out for dinners and movies all the time. And you don't have to be like that old married couple, because we've been married for 11 and a half years now. We don't have to be that old married couple that just kind of loses interest in each other. We're out there on the field. We're supporting each other every single day, on and off the field. And we look at practically everything like the game. How can we successfully finish this and still be teammates at the end of it? We're obviously going to run into hiccups, but how can we put our heads together and accomplish it and deal with our little minions in the process?
Those little minions will be joining the fold soon enough, I believe, right?
Yeah, within the next couple of years they'll want to, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, our youngest one is already quite the little dude on the paintball field, that's for sure.
Yeah, I saw you guys posting videos of the low impact paintball there, and
oh, the Splatmasters,
yeah.
So much fun.
That was a lot of fun, yeah.
We like bringing those out too. We love bringing those out because we get the kids involved, and if you notice, like, there's a couple of speedballers that are in there, and they're just running with like their barrel squeegees, and they're just playing with the kids and having so much fun. And it's so great seeing these real aggressive people on the field just tone it down and be so gentle with the kids and getting them involved, and oh, so wonderful. I love it.
Sometimes you can take paintball a little bit too serious, and some of those when we're playing with the kids and stuff like that, it's just fun to run around and use your rubber knife sometimes, or I don't know.
Bring it down to their level.
Yeah, the Splatmasters are a lot of fun, or the low impact, the 50 caliber ones too. It's totally different fun, but it's fun nonetheless. So.
Well, it's always great being able to bring the kids into it, and like I said, train them young and grow the sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it also allows us to get out a lot more. If we
Yeah.
have to find a babysitter, or if Heather didn't want to come out as often or whatever, like I wouldn't go as often either if we didn't go as a couple, right?
Mhm.
So it gets us out playing paintball in general a lot more. The fact that we go out together and bring our kids too.
We definitely push each other. Like sometimes we'll be sitting here and just moping about, and one of us will want to go out, so we'll half-heartedly drag the other person out, and we'll end up having like the best day ever.
Yeah, it's true.
So, on to question number 4 here. What type of events is it that you guys tend to prefer going out to?
Events as in
Like paintball
big
events.
games, just any sort of paintball, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Like what are the games that really draw your attention, or you're like, yeah, that's the one that I want to go to if nothing else this season?
I don't know. I think for me personally, the more people I can interact with, it's not always about the game. It's about getting in there and teaching people about this amazing sport, showing that it's not all dangerous and about violence, and for the women, not all about getting chased and cornered, that sort of thing. The teamwork, the camaraderie. So to me, any game, honestly, is the one I look forward to. I just look toward the next one. So if we were going out on Sunday, I'd be looking forward to that one, because that would be me just getting out there, interacting with my team, with people off the team that we're really good friends with the field owners, with our reps, with the families. Really, really like interacting with families, especially if their kids are on the field. And many times we'll find like the scared parents standing there at the meshing and hollering at their kids and squealing when they get hurt more than the kid does. And you just kind of saddle up along beside them and just say, it's okay. They're having fun. Look at them working together and pointing out all the things that their child has accomplished on that field and pointing out all those good things that they've had. That's the excitement to me. Getting out on the field in a big game and coming across a nervous player and encouraging them to follow me into a fight, or asking them if, like, to look what's in front of them and ask them what their battle plan is going to be, because I'm going to follow them. That sort of thing, like, that gets my blood just pumping and the excitement going, and I don't know, I really love that side of the sport.
What about you, General?
I think it depends on my mindset as to what game I prefer to attend. Like sometimes I just have a lot of fun going to our local field, and there's only, I don't know, half a dozen or 10 people, and we just do a 4-on-4, 5-on-5 sort of thing for the afternoon. It's a lot of fun. On the other hand, going to the big games down in Edmonton, that in years past have been just about 400 people. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nothing. There's nothing like a big game. On the other hand, right? It totally depends on the kind of mood a guy's in. I enjoy both for totally different reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the Shooting for a Cause game also, it's kind of our, well, it's not kind of our, it's our Western Canada SAS reunion every year. Like a lot of people that we don't see the rest of the year, we'll see at that weekend. So
Yeah, it was an honor getting
it's always
with you guys there.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Same.
I know I'm probably still getting scolded for how I played in the first game.
We'll just cover that part of the screen. You weren't supposed to fall in a hole.
I was supposed to sit for 10, I sat for 5.
Close enough.
At least in half listened.
Yeah,
Hey.
half is better than none.
Sure.
I counted to 10, I went 1, 2, 10.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You said sit for 10, not 10 what?
I said 10 minutes.
No,
He heard
well.
10 seconds.
No, I heard 10 minutes. I sat on the tailgate of the truck for 3 minutes, laid down for 2. I'm like, I can't do this. I've got to get back in there. So I start hobbling down the field, and all I hear from you is, Harkus, yes, ma'am. That wasn't 10 minutes. No, ma'am.
I kind of hollered at you from behind a stump or something as you waddled past me.
Yep.
Yeah, I just remember sitting there peeking out around a car, and you come running up beside me, and you're like, "Oh, cramping." And then all of a sudden, you're gone again.
I'm like, I'm in pain, but I must play.
I know how that feels.
Play
like.
through the pain.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's
That
what we
adrenaline
are.
just keeps you going, hey?
It really does. It really
Mhm.
does.
Worse than, major injury within the first half hour of a game.
Yeah.
Well, hey, at least this year we didn't have anyone break fingers or fracture anything.
It's true.
It's true.
Magic last year, he didn't realize it was broken until after the second game, I think it was.
The
When he
first
finally
year
took
was
his glove
the
off?
guy's leg.
Oh, that was
Magic's
horrible.
Finger last year. First
The
year
joys
was
of
the guy's
adrenaline.
leg when he went into the gopher hole, and he didn't realize it was broken until halftime, and he realized his leg had swollen up.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
So on the topic of injuries and things that trouble you guys, what have you seen at big events or even at your local field that kind of makes you go, okay, what were they thinking?
At a couple of fields, we've seen they during their player meetings they'll go over everything safety on the field, but they'll also go into extra safety measures. And I would like to see a lot more fields do this. Now, extra safety measures would be like your mercy rule, especially if you have like a lot of people that are used to an X-ball field and they come into a woods ball type environment. I can understand this. They're so competitive, and I love playing with them. But at the same time, it's completely different when we have a lot more renters on the field, and you have to be a little bit more cautious of this style of play. So at one of the fields we go to, they will give you a visual example about what is an acceptable distance for a mercy rule, and they say because of the specifics of the game with how many people there are, that you really need to try and use that as much as possible to protect the player and to protect them from overshooting. They also do demonstrations on what blind firing is. And they also do demonstrations on what is a friendly, competitive yelling match between people. You know, it gets heated. Things can get a little, tense between players, but you have to know when it crosses that line and when to jump in. Because sometimes two guys just need to yell at each other. They'll fine, they'll shake each other's hands, they'll turn backs on each other, and they'll go their separate ways, and they'll be fine. But then you'll have those ones that go one step further and end up throwing fists at each other. And so we've had a couple of fields that will show you exactly what is acceptable in that situation, where they'll allow you to yell at each other and be vocal in that. Just don't cross that line. And they will also go into field specifics. They will tell you things like at the one field with gopher holes. They'll tell you what to look for. They'll tell you keep one eye in front of you and one eye below you to watch your footing. Last year at one of our fields, they were having a poisonous spider outbreak at the field. So they showed what these spiders looked like, what to stay away from, and where they liked to be. So that was very cool as well. And then they go into other stuff. If you see something on a field, go immediately to a ref who has a radio, and they can radio someone right away and they can deal with it. So I love seeing those things, and I'd love to see more fields implement them. I think that would be so helpful for the safety of a lot of people.
Anything extra to add there, Grant?
Not on that topic, but to elaborate on my view on this question about some of the things that trouble me at events that we've been to is it's one thing to say the rules like no blind firing and try not to friendly fire and the mercy rule and keep your mask down. But I've been to some fields that are way too lax at enforcing the rules, especially the mask down rule and barrel plugs and stuff like that. If you're going to present a rule like that, you got to have, in my opinion, you need to have enough staff that are competent and paying attention enough and that are able to enforce the rules. Because some of the fields I've been to, they tell you to keep your mask down, and then they go back to their bench and they watch you from a distance. And some people walk off, like as soon as they get shot out, if it's hot and they're sweating a little bit, they'll just lift their mask. And people are still playing on the field. Like people like that, and Heather and I have talked to people like that and tried to explain to them why you're supposed to keep your mask down. But that's up to the staff of these fields, and I mean it's a huge liability for them too. If somebody gets an eye shot out or whatever, and I mean you're gonna feel dumb too for lifting your mask after you get shot in the face too. But
well, and then it falls on us players too, because if we see it and if we don't stop it as well, then like if anything happened to them, I would feel terrible.
Some of it is our responsibility, but it's some of it. Like definitely. The majority of it is the field owner and or staff of these fields.
And some fields will just get like a youth group or something like that, but they don't run them through basically a schooling of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And we've even seen on the field like refs playing Pokemon Go when they should have been watching what's been going, or watching that cute girl walk away. You know, I understand that these things happen, but we're still playing an extreme sport, and our safety relies on things like this, because I don't have eyes in the back of my head or beside me, and my mask limits my visibility anyway. If something were to happen, I'm relying on people around me.
Would one way that you could see fields combat that is have teams who are playing out of there all the time? So say having SAS members who are stationed out of fields in their local area. So some of the Edmonton guys say go out and help with the reffing for like free entry or something like that. Like, is there something that fields could do to get the more experienced players out to assist with that kind of thing, just to kind of show renters, you know, this is how you're supposed to play. This is the safe way of doing things.
The Edmonton field that we've gone to for big games have done that. They've recruited some of our SAS players because of their experience and knowing their way around the field to be usually head ref at least.
Yeah, and they'll be head ref.
Sometimes they'll like it's such a huge area they need multiple refs. So the head ref obviously has a radio and tries to keep in contact with what's going on everywhere around the field. And then because of that experience, they get to deal with any of the disputes or the safety violations. It becomes their responsibility to kind of dole out the punishment, I guess, as it were. And like, so that is a good way to get at least a very competent head ref.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, the area that they're covering, you need probably a dozen refs, and to get a dozen people that are willing to commit to the whole day and be competent the entire time it's pretty difficult.
And willing to walk between 300 to 500 players, like, that takes a lot. I don't know a lot of people that would want to do that. And yes, they have a really good group of brave young men and women that do that. But there's a little bit more to it than just being able to walk around with a towel and keep your head down. I think fields need to be a little bit more diligent in that. And we definitely, like, we've taken like Grant said, we've taken it into our own hands before, and fields have asked us to ref. I know when we go to our local field, if our local field owner is short on a couple refs and he gets an overabundance of people, let's say I'm not playing a couple rounds, I'll jump in with them and I'll just watch them. I'll call them in, and thankfully that, like, our little fields are so small that you can keep a pretty good eye on them. But it's more the bigger fields that need a little bit more help in that area.
Mm-hmm. Dave knows this very well from our first time out this year. I'm the call out guy. So if I see anyone lift their mask or anything like that, I'm definitely yelling at them saying, mask down, mask down. And if they do it over and over again, I'll walk up to them and explain what I've seen. And I have had the unfortunate experience of seeing a guy have his nose blown off and his eye socket shattered because he didn't have his mask down. So
Right.
there is that
We've
experience.
seen women like get shot in the face after yelling at her to put her mask on. This is at our local fields, and getting hit, and she yelled at us, "Why do I need to put my mask down?" right before she gets hit in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, in her case, she didn't learn from that and still kept her mask up on top of her head as she continued to walk off the field. Like, in that case, there's only so much that you can do, but at least you've tried, you've done your part, and she did get off the field, and thankfully she didn't come back on, for everybody else's safety and for herself. But if she had, I probably would have said, "You need to leave." It's just too dangerous for everybody else around. And if you're the person whose stray shot hit that person, like, that'd be devastating.
Kind of taking this conversation one step further. Um, aside from somebody walking around with their mask up on their heads at like the bigger games and whatnot, what kind of things have you guys seen that like just causes that worry and makes you um, basically the unsafe things that you've seen out on the field that make you go like, why is this person even on the field? I know, like, for me, it generally comes down to people cranking up markers.
Well, you see that at any big game. It's going to happen. Guaranteed. Things like that, I really like having refs that have handheld chronographs. I've even had a portable chronograph on my person before. And it's not very hard. You just call yourself out. Just, "Hey, suspected of shooting hot. Do you mind shooting a couple shots over this so I can prove to them that you're not?" That sort of deal. I've had it done to me, and I could understand why the person got hit in the way. But then you have things like, I was playing one game, and a person playing on my side of the field was aiming at a miner up the hill on the other side, and he thought that he had got this miner out. So one of my female friends on another team, also on the other side, she ran over, did a paint check, went to check on him, cleared him, and by the time she looked up, this massive guy was already up in their faces, and he had grabbed the kid by his shemagh, had dropped his gun, and was going to punch this kid in the face for wiping, or what he suspected for wiping. Now, by this time, I was already running up the hill, and I look up, and here's my friend ramming herself in between these two, and the kid is terrified. He doesn't know who this gigantic guy is. And this guy's just screaming and spitting in his face and throwing stuff, and my friend just about gets assaulted as well on the field. And then I get there, and I kind of grab him and I tear him off. And I don't know what happened to him after that, because I was checking on my friends and this miner, and they were okay, thankfully. But by the time I turned around, he was gone. So my friend and I, we went to talk to the owner, and the owner immediately got into the Rhino. We got into the Rhino with him. We rode around the field until we found him, and all we had to do was sit in this Rhino while this guy just screamed in the owner's face. And the owner said, well, you need to cool off. His first warning. Just go off the field, cool off for a few minutes, you can come back. It wasn't good enough for this guy. He started yelling obscenities at us and very, very horrible things for women. And threatening to assault the field owner now. And so the field owner says, fine, second warning, you can get off the field for this big game, you're not allowed on for the rest of the day. Still wasn't good enough. The guy walks off, gets to the pit, starts being aggressive and overturning tables and everything. So the owner has to come back, and he's being kicked off for life now. So, you know, you see stuff like this, and you just shake your head. It's just a game. Why on earth would it even cross your mind to run up there and attack a minor, like a 13-year-old kid who's just playing a game, a renter, just running a 98 in coveralls? And then when a woman runs in to protect this kid, to also try and punch her as well, you know, that's just completely uncalled for. And I'm so thankful for field owners that immediately, this has to be dealt with. We're riding around this field until we find this guy, and it is going to be dealt with right away. And he was totally willing to call the police if need be, because he wants to protect his players. But that kid was so terrified, and sadly, we've never seen him at that field since.
I was just gonna say, unfortunately, from situations like that, if there's renters who are getting yelled at and pushed around, they're not gonna come back to the sport. Like
Absolutely not.
A big game, you don't win anything. You don't win a trophy. You don't win cash prize. Keep that kind of an attitude to the professional side of it, where you have your sponsors and your whole event rides on winning. Keep it to that. That's where you've got men versus men. You've got your female teams who can dish it out just as good as the men teams, but leave it to there. Like speedballers, I love some of them, but others, they just rub me the wrong way because they're all about competition.
Which is fine on an X-ball field, but an X-ball and a woods ball field are completely different playing fields. Yeah. And it's a whole completely different group of guys, and I have so much love and respect for those guys and what they do on an X-ball field, because I certainly cannot do that on that field. I can't. I've tried, and it's not my thing, and all power to them that do that, because they're athletes. But again, completely different genre of this sport. And if you know you're a hothead, learn to walk away. Don't just run up to a minor and threaten to punch him. Like, that kid was terrified. I've never seen a kid that terrified in my life. And I would be too if I saw, like, this guy was huge.
That's inappropriate behavior at any type of paintball game, though. And it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter. It doesn't matter that the kid was a minor, that it was a woman trying to break up the fight. That is totally irrelevant. You don't act like that. You shouldn't be acting like that in public anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and he didn't help his case at all. He kept yelling that we were picking on him, that we were just picking a guy out of the crowd. And unfortunately, when he has 25 other people from his color side that saw the entire thing, just weren't able to get to that location before it ended. I think 25 to 30 people can speak for themselves. And when they're all saying the same thing about one guy, to his story, you have to kind of go with the players, especially when his own color team was implicating him of this act. And I'm glad that this field owner was diligent and he stood with it and said, you're going. He gave him a 3 count. He gave him 3 separate chances to rectify things, to apologize, to cool down. And he chose not to do that. And that's his own choice. And I'm glad now that he's being basically outlawed from this field, and now we can protect these kids that come there to play.
What a lot of people I find don't realize is our sport, and more specifically the woods ball aspect of it, is different than any other sport out there because, as Dan mentioned, we don't play for a trophy. We don't play for prize money. We don't, there is no big, thing at the end of the game other than bragging rights at best.
Exactly.
Right.
And, really, even for most of these games, for a woods ball, when it ends, you shake hands, and once those armbands come off, you can't tell who is on what side of the field for the rest of the day.
Right.
So it's like
you just remember that you had fun with having a gun battle with somebody, and at the end of the day,
200 other people.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather people, like you said, shaking hands at the end of the day and comparing battle wounds and war stories about their time on the field than going away and being scared of something.
So, moving this along again, with behaviors like that, what kind of penalties or reactions, aside from kicking somebody off of a field for, a day, a week, forever, what kind of stuff would you like to see implemented to help prevent some of this kind of behavior on fields?
That's a bit of a tough one because as much as I'm against wielding the old banhammer on people, if they can't behave in a way that's appropriate with the other people that they're playing with, then they should find another sport or another place to do it.
Yeah. Because like this topic is about, at the end of the day, we're talking about the safety of more than just one person. And when one or two people are ruining that safety, then, something has to be done about it. And if it means having to kick one person off as opposed to losing, like, let's say 5 to 10 people, then I would say that's a much better payoff.
Can't argue with that.
Definitely not. I know at Shooting for a Cause, with me hobbling around all over the place, everyone was our team, the other team. Everyone's like, "Hey, dude, are you okay?" That's what paintball is all about to me. And it's not just the woods ballers or the milsim players or the mag feds or the speedballs. It's everyone. Everyone was asking that question, and that showed the kind of people that we have coming to the events that we attend. I know I can't say that of every event I have been to, because there are some that I've attended just a couple hours up the road from here, and players have been full-blown fist fights, or they're throwing $2,000 markers around just because they got shot out by a renter.
See, and that to me just makes me shake my head, because that's the most massive temper tantrum, and it just makes you look like an idiot.
Yeah, I know
I don't know any...
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, anytime I get shot out by a renter, like, when I'm out at a field, like, I posted a photo of Dan and I before the game started out at Shooting for a Cause. And you can definitely tell, looking at either one of us, it's not our first time out. You know? Like, and, even looking at the pair of you out on a field, you can tell you've done this once or twice before. So when I take a good shot and I look up and all I see is some, tiny kid who's barely old enough to be on the field wearing coveralls in a rental mask and the Tippmann 98s, it's like,
those are awesome.
Like, I make sure to announce as loudly as I can that it was a good shot.
Oh, yeah,
And,
all the time.
Like, out on the field there, my wife was one of the photographers.
Yeah.
I was told that myself, Dan, and another friend of ours, Jeff, were audible from the opposite side of the field. We're not quiet.
No.
So,
Everyone kind of knew where we were. That was the best part, because it was funny, because after the prizes were given out, a little boy there in a separate group from the big game, he was given one of the, I think it was the Cronus, that
yes.
one of the more experienced players had won. And then you, Dave, you took the mask that you had won and you gave it to us. And
Yeah.
those are the kinds of memories that these kids are going to hold on to. They're going to be like, oh my God, these experienced players noticed us. Like,
Yeah.
when I was on the field, I quite literally at one point had 6 or 7 little renters around me. And they kind of just looked at me and said, what do we do? How do we go about doing this? And I just looked at them and I said, well, what do you think you should do? And they go, oh, well, we need to shoot the other players. I'm like, go do it.
Yep.
Go have
Go do it.
fun.
That's usually the
Yeah.
plan I walk into. And every time somebody walks up to me, well, what are we gonna do? What's the plan? Shoot them. Don't get shot.
That's number 1 rule.
Yeah.
Number 1 rule.
The
No,
number 2 rule is have fun while doing it.
Yes, exactly. There is an older gentleman that was out shooting for a cause, and I ran up behind him, and there was the tank was coming by, and yeah, I know, right? Now, unfortunately, we had 2 juggernauts in a tank that had completely surrounded us, but none of them had seen us yet. So he just looked at me, and his eyes were like this big through his mask. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I've never played this style before. I've just played with the kids, and they wanted me to come. And I said, well, get in a car. There's plenty of them around here. Just get in a car. And he goes, and then what? And I said, and then you be quiet. So we hid in a car together. He was on the floor of the back seat, and I was laying down on the seats of the back seat. And he was desperately trying to hold the door closed, but he was too tall, and his legs kept sticking out. But afterward, he jumped out, and it was the excitement of being in that situation, so close to danger, that got his heart pumping. And then, like you said, he looked at me and says, now what? And the first thing I said was, you know the hands on a clock. We had your noon, 1, 2, 3, so on. You and I are going to start calling out locations to each other. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use the directions on a clock. So if I say from where you are looking, look 3 o'clock, far left tower, bottom window, far right. He knows immediately where to shoot. And afterward, he's like, where next? Where next? And he kept popping off these guys. And I just started.
I think we have a malfunction. Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost them.
We lost them. Oh no. Try and get them back, Grizz.
I'll see what I can do here. Give me a moment.
Us and our technical difficulties tonight. Oh my gosh.
It's just been one of those nights.
I think I hear Serena laughing in the background.
She's shaking her head at me. Oh, I believe we've got them back. Yay, there they are.
Hooray!
I don't know what happened.
What happened?
I don't
Technical
know.
difficulties. I blame gremlins.
The screen went black. I don't know what happened.
Gremlins.
It is Gremlins. Exactly. But as I was saying, though, he was just so excited because he just started getting off these guys, and before he was just hiding behind a car, and he didn't know what to do before. And all he needed was a little bit of a push in the right direction. And then I saw someone else that needed help, so I said, are you okay by yourself? And he says, okay. I don't know if I am, but okay. And I said, I trust you. You got this. So I ran off to another group of people, and I looked behind, and he's got 3 other renters. And here he is telling them, you know the hands on a clock? I'm going to start giving you these directions.
Epic.
That's what
That's
I like
perfect.
to see.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So here's something aimed at other players, be they renters or experienced players. What do you have suggestion-wise to help promote safety on the field? Like, say, suggestions for a renter and then suggestions for an experienced player with how to possibly promote safety.
Okay.
Well, I think for a renter, sometimes, especially like an absolute newbie, like first time out, maybe they don't understand what could happen if they flip their mask up in the middle of the game or something. So it's probably our obligation to explain to them why some of these safety rules are in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side, an experienced player that is just acting unsafe, I mean, that's a totally different conversation than with a new renter. I mean, obviously they've been around. If they're experienced, they've been around long enough. They know what the rules are, and they know why those rules are there, and they're choosing to break them of their own volition. So, I mean, that's a lot harder one to deal with.
Yeah. It's really hard to also pick out those guys that were a renter one week and they had so much fun, and so they go out the next week and buy all of this stuff and they try and act like they're friends that are really involved in the sport. So you really have to ask yourself, is he just acting like a jerk, trying to get attention, or just trying to be a fool out there? Or does he actually not understand? So then you have like this very small margin right in the middle that kind of straddle both of them. So I usually, if I see something on the field, whether it be an experienced player or a renter, I'll come alongside them and I'll just give them a suggestion, keep your mask down, or maybe not look down the barrel of your gun.
You wouldn't say it if
Seen that one
it didn't happen.
No, that's absolutely true.
It's happened way too many times, unfortunately. But at the same time, if you see it over and over again, you have to get to a point where it's surpassed your abilities and you got to send it on to a ref or somebody else and just say, hey, I've really had to talk to this guy. And not only is he being a jerk to other people, he's being unsafe to other people and unsafe to himself. And little kids are mimics. And it doesn't matter if you see them or not, there's always going to be a little kid around. It's true. As a parent, I know this. It's true. Little ninjas everywhere. And they'll copy you because they look up to you. And I think that's really why I hate the most when experienced players are acting like just totally insane on a field, because you have these kids, whether renters or kids that come with their parents and are running some of their parents' gear. They're going to be looking up to you. They're not always running with their parents. They're going to be running by themselves half the time or with you. And it's your responsibility to be safe for them as well, because they're watching your every move and they're going to want to be just like you.
So basically, set a good example is what you're saying. Be a role model.
Yeah. Well, especially for SAS, be ambassadors to the sport.
Yeah, I definitely know. Go ahead, Mom.
So you don't grow a sport by being an idiot. You grow a sport by coming alongside someone and teaching them the right way. And it might be a longer path to take to get to the top, but at least you're going to get there in one piece. People are going to remember you along the way. You're not going to have all of these rumors or whatnot hanging off of you. You're going to have a clean sailing trip all the way up to the top. And that's my goal for someone who starts right at the bottom and works their way up, is that they can get there and just be this person that is so respected at the end of the day. That's my ultimate goal.
Well, I can definitely say that you and General are probably two of the most respected players in SAS in Alberta, and probably just in paintball in general. I don't think I've talked to anyone who doesn't know of you guys, if it is just SAS, but everyone who knows you guys are like, yeah, those guys are awesome to play with, and that's one of the nice things about being with SAS is all you hear are the good things.
Yeah.
So, when you guys have, seen, some of the more, we'll say, dangerous activities out on the field, you know, you guys have mentioned that, you've gone and tried to talk to the person and say, like, hey, knock it off. You know, at what point do you kind of decide, they're just not going to listen? It's time to, get a ref, get an owner, and, progress it that next step.
I know my answer is going to be a little bit different than Grant's, and I hate that it is for this reason, but there's this huge bridge between genders when it comes to this sport. I absolutely hate that there is, because I just think of myself as just another player. But if I'm coming to talk to someone, whether it be just a weekend warrior or an everyday player, and I need to talk to them about a safety issue, I try and approach them as calmly and as respectfully as possible, given the circumstance. And I really try and gauge their responses to me. Now, this is where the answer is going to be different than Grant's, because normally with me, I'm not that big. I wear a pink bow. I've got pink hair, and I don't look that aggressive, and I'm sure a lot of guys will think it's just like a little yappy chihuahua nipping at their ankles. But when it comes to safety, I'm going to be annoying about it, and I really have to worry about the aggressiveness that comes involved. I know, you're laughing your head off.
No, I'm laughing at the comments in the Facebook feed. Dan, you might want to bring these up.
Working on it. Working on it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I left a pretty interesting picture involved in there too, so I'm fine with that. But for me, I sometimes feel like I can't always approach a situation as calmly as I want. Sometimes I really have to get their attention and deal with something really quick. And I have to make them look at me and listen to me and realize that this is pretty serious. It doesn't matter if it's just pot-shotting at your friend. It might not be your friend, right? Just because he looks like your friend from behind. Exactly. You have to be really, really careful of that. And I know, like, guys, even seasoned players will just walk off the field without their barrel bag on. Each one of us has to hold each other accountable. And it's up to us to say, hey, barrel bag, put that back on. Or keep your mask on. I really don't want you to get hurt. And sometimes you have to be a little bit louder than usual. But sometimes there definitely is the whole eye roll. Oh, it's some chick just yapping at me. Just ignore her. Maybe she'll go away.
That's when you yell at them and it usually gets results.
That's when I get a little bit louder, yeah.
That's what the mom voice is for. Being a parent myself, that parental voice, I don't care how old somebody is, as soon as that tone comes out, everybody listens.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And there are sometimes where I hate having to use that voice. I just want to be just Heather. But there are some instances that do call for that voice.
Absolutely.
Do you, Robin?
I'm the only one in the world not afraid of you.
I know I'm afraid of her.
Yeah, Mr. 10-second Harkus over there.
He counted to 10. Leave him alone.
Like I said, 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
Exactly.
Hey, I never said I was SMART. I'm just SMRT.
Oh, there you go. Missing a few letters. We'll forgive you.
I know. It's been one of those days where I probably couldn't spell if my life depended on it, so please don't ask.
Yeah,
It's a good
I've
thing we
been
don't
there.
have to spell in paintball.
No.
It'd be horrible.
I don't know. We have played one game where we had to do math before.
It didn't end well.
It did
Oh,
not end well.
I think Rick did one of those games last year. There was a skill testing questions required, and I'm like, oh my god, here we go.
I remember at the first shooting for a cause, you had to
Yeah.
try and undo a combination lock.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's like I'm running on pure adrenaline at this point because it was like the second or third game in. It's like thinking it's not my strong suit. Somebody figure that out and I'll cover you.
And then there was a ref there to make sure that we didn't use any kind of electronic device.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? You expect me to use my brain like this? I don't think so.
My thought is if you're brave enough to bring an electronic device out onto the field with you, sure, go ahead and use it.
Hey, we got friends that do live streaming on the field. I wouldn't be caught dead. Where are you going? Don't use me.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Bye. As I mentioned,
Still
my
stay
wife
there.
does photography out on the field, and she told me today she was doing the math. Her camera is worth $2,500,
Right.
and she brings that out on the field, and like, let's face it, one stray shot and that thing's toast.
It could be, yep.
Like, I may have dumped close to that into my marker, but at least it's designed to take that hit.
Right.
So, which brings up another note.
I used to type them
People,
down.
don't use photographers as meat shields. Not nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
please don't.
Like, I had to use mom voice during second game. A whole group of people kind of used 3 photographers. I may have screamed at them just a little bit.
I'm okay with this.
I think I heard you. You
From the
were.
other side of the field,
Yeah.
I was doing a
As
lot.
I'm roll
I
as
actually
I'm
made the poor ref jump.
I wasn't able to actually move in that second game for some points. So I was just rolling around and all I hear is, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, Mom's
Yeah.
mad."
Yeah, I know there was
I'm
one
just glad
point you
she was
looked at me
yelling
and
at
you're
me.
like, you told me to go get somebody. I'm like, me?
Yeah, well,
And then I did it.
one of our guys went down and he got knocked out, and I don't know who it was, but I saw a ref, and the ref saw what had happened, and the ref turned and ran, and I was like, what? You can't run. You see this person fall down, and I didn't know it was you. First of all, I found out it was you afterward. I was just yelling at people because I was like taking all these shots in the back, and I was covering him because he was just down. He didn't wake up for a whole minute,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, like
Wasn't that Ragnar?
yes.
Yeah, so what I like in that situation, and I have to give the player on the opposing teams props for this. There were 4 or 5 of their speedballers who had us all dead to rights, but they knew what was going. They didn't look our way as we formed that shield wall around him so that we could get some water into him. They
As soon as I started screaming, everyone just stopped. Like, I took a couple shots in the back when I first ran up there, and I ran around for the ref. But after, like, as soon as they realized that I wasn't getting up, that this player wasn't getting up, and I was yelling for some help, all the shooting stopped. And they went on either side of us, and that was massive props. Like, I didn't yell for a ceasefire or anything, and they just did that, and that's awesome.
That's that, camaraderie that you find, more in the woods ball genre, that as soon as somebody starts yelling for help in any way, right away there is, the paint stops flying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how big the game is. Like, I know out at shooting there, somebody was yelling for a medic, and the person was already off the field, and the call was still going up and down the field of somebody was looking for a medic. I feel bad for the poor medic because they were running back and forth trying to figure out who actually needed help, and they were already
Yeah.
off the field.
Mhm.
Well, at one point we had 3 calls for a medic in the same vicinity, and Cam, knowing you would use anyone as a human shield. Come on, you don't need to use an unconscious person. It's just you, Cam.
It's Cam. I'll yell at him later.
Yeah, he's too lovable to really yell at. I mean, come on, that smile. Come on.
When he comes up behind you and tries bumping you in the ankles with his tank and then honks that horn, that's oh.
That horn was something different. Definitely something different. Well done, Cam.
Yes, well done. It was awesome. I liked it.
That was a great event, and
Yes.
It was.
definitely. I know for sure us Southern Albertans need to get up there to one of the Young Gun big games because we've heard some great things about it.
That
And
would be awesome.
Ragnar, I know. I know Ragnar has been ragging on me for 2 years to come up and play, and
He will.
eventually I'll make it out there. I mean, heck, my parents live in Sherwood Park, and it's only an hour's drive from there to Young Guns. So who knows? Maybe in the near future. Not too sure yet.
Cam's tooting his horn over there.
He's always tooting his horn. He's like
he likes to hear himself.
He does. He's like the little train that Cody's just going toot toot.
Pretty much. Oh man.
I'm glad you had fun, Jasper, at your first shooting for a cause. Definitely like to hear that.
Yeah, he's one of my guys up here, and I'm really, really thankful that we were able to get a couple more of our northern crew down there. Sometimes it gets a little lonely for traveling down by ourselves. Oh,
Colin says I drive too slow. Well, my parents don't live in Sherwood Park. They live in Ardrossan, so they live just 20 minutes outside of Sherwood Park to the east, so give me a break, buddy.
Oh man.
Well, it looks like we've gone over an hour, so I'm sure everybody has things that they need to get done.
Yeah, Grant needs to get his beauty sleep.
Well, he was saying
That's
he
how
was
this
tired
was born.
earlier, so.
He had a nap. I woke him up
I did have a nap.
I woke
I'm
up-
thoroughly enjoying this goofing around. So
Okay, well, nothing wrong with that. But I guess as for the official podcast, I think we can wrap it there.
Absolutely.
Would
It's been a
definitely
blast.
like to say thanks again for you guys joining us tonight and talking about this. It's a little bit more of a serious topic than paintball normally entails, but definitely one that needs to be
Sometimes
talked
serious
about.
topics need to be said. Exactly.
I don't think I've heard
safety under the rug.
exactly. I haven't heard, like, I've been following all the big podcasts out there for years now, and I don't think I've heard many of them, if any, ever really breach the subject of player safety as
You're probably
much as
right,
we
actually.
did tonight.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate to say, but like you said, it needs to be said because a lot of people frown on the sport. Oh, you're just going around shooting each other. No one realizes, the camaraderie and the family that we form with it. SAS knows this more than others. Like we've shared in celebrations, we've shared in sorrows, especially this year so far.
It's been a little brutal.
It has been brutal. I'm ready for the year to be over so that we don't have to suffer anymore. That's for sure. But with all the sadness that comes our way, there's also many happy memories. So I know we're all going to hold on to those.
Well, and at the end of the day, there's still family, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what patch we wear on our arms at the end of the day or what banner we play under. We are still a team together. And as we saw at Shooting for a Cause, there was how many teams there? Everyone played as one. Whether they were renters, whether they were Devil's Rejects, whether they were SAS, whether they were Project Mayhem, I know there's a couple more. There's Kill Team out there.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, Kill Team
yeah,
from BC. They were a great
yeah,
group of guys to play with.
yeah. And just getting out there and being able to know that you have a brother or sister on either side of you, and you're going to be okay, no matter what side of the field that you're on. That's an amazing feeling.
It's one of the reasons why I love paintball is because when you get onto that field, it doesn't matter what style you play, who you play for, or why you play. We are a family. Like
Yeah.
we've witnessed it throughout the paintball community, and the whole reason that Dave and I wanted to start this podcast was everything happens out in the east that you hear about. You don't happen about it here in the west, but we have such a strong community out here, and we have so many amazing teams, so many amazing players, so many amazing fields and owners that we just want to say, hey, we love you all very much for doing what you do, and this is our way of saying thank you. So Heather and Grant, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight and for having developed SAS in Alberta, Northern Alberta, as much as you have. And thank you guys for being good friends of mine. I've played with you guys a couple times. The first time I played with you, Heather, you were my kill box ref, and I was like, "Who's this cute little short I play on?" And then it's just like I see you on the other side of the field because I was playing against you, and I'm like, "Holy crap, she's a badass!" I'm like, "This is awesome." But that's what the community is all about. It's about finding new family members, finding new friends, lifelong friends, and we've definitely got dozens, if not hundreds, across the world.
Yeah, and it's just getting bigger. That's what just blows my mind. Every single season here in Western Canada, it's not just on SAS. It's not just on any of the teams that we ally with. Paintball is getting bigger out here, and I do think it is getting better. Like, when we first started, it wasn't nearly as safe as it was when we started. It's I don't know, it blows my mind, and to know that we were part of the voice that helped with that, it means a lot.
Yeah, I know I've been playing for, quite a long time, as I've mentioned numerous times. And so I remember going from, the days where you didn't chrono before you started playing, you just picked up a marker and away you went.
Yeah,
And, you know, the bruises you would walk away with were insane. And so, seeing how the safety has progressed in that time frame, the fact that, you know, we wear the masks now instead of just Ray-Ban sunglasses,
yeah,
the fact that, you know, they actually come out with protective gear that covers, more of your body than